Hey y'all, it's Sean, Lady Bear here talking with you from Outkind Counseling. And it's late. I've been seeing clients all day and writing notes most of the evening. It's certainly not looking my best at the moment, but I really wanted to sort of get these thoughts sort of out and in front of folks for a minute. Um, so the thing about grief, um, is that it never really completely leaves us. We learn how to cope, we learn how to adapt. I have been skeptical for a really long time about the idea of closure because I don't know that I really buy closure. I think we learn how to adapt. I think we learn how to live without. I think we figure out a path forward and how to move that way. Um, and I don't know that we ever fully recover, at least not in the way we were, because we can't go back to that, right? We can't go back to the unknowing of that pain or the inexperience of that loss. Like that time, that space is no more. We have to move through, and that's really the only way to move on, right? Is to move through. And so I think sometimes, there's so much writing out there that exists about like how we plod through days and move on day after day and, things you can do and ways to distract yourself. And all of that's true. And sometimes we need those things. Sometimes we need to just lose ourselves in binge watching some show on Netflix or lose ourselves in the music, go for a long drive, play sports, work out, whatever the thing is. We all have times when we need to do those things, and sometimes we just have to sit with the emotion. Sometimes there really just isn't any other choice but to feel what we have experienced. And I know that that is fraught with its own problems. And I know that it can start to feel overwhelming. And I'm certainly not trying to encourage anybody to sort of go and get lost in those feelings. But I think that there comes a point, and maybe multiple times, there will be points when we are grieving the loss of someone, or a situation, or grieving the loss of a dearly beloved pet. I mean, this grief doesn't isn't bounded up under certain circumstances. It is a unique experience to each person who feels it, but it is not a unique experience across the breadth of humanity, in that we will all come to know loss, and we will all come to know pain and grief. I think I'm particularly taken with this because at the moment I'm moving through a series of anniversaries, of several losses that occurred around this time and over the course of the next several weeks, in very recent history for me. And so it is something that is heavily on my mind and something I'm really reflective of, and something I'm thoughtful about most of the time, anyways, because of the kind of work that I do. But I think, especially now, and especially with so many people who are experiencing grief in so many different kinds of ways, whether it's job loss or housing insecurity or food insecurity or whatever, like there's this permeating underlying unspoken sense of grief that I think many of us are sharing in and experiencing together and completely alone all at the same time, which is honestly, I think how many of us experience grief, even with close family members who may be sharing in exactly the same kind of griefs and stressors that we have. Oftentimes it's difficult to talk about those things with those folks or to share how we're feeling. We don't want to upset each other. We don't want to make somebody else's grief feel worse. We don't want to pull somebody else down if we feel like, maybe they're holding it together better than we are. So we don't want to bring up our struggle. And sometimes we don't have to say anything at all to completely understand exactly what it is that someone else is feeling. I agree that empathy has its limits, but I think when it comes especially to grief, and especially in situations where there are no real good words, there is nothing that anyone is going to say that's going to take away the pain. There is nothing that anybody is going to say that's going to change some of the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And the only way out is through. And so we are left to deal with ourselves and our emotions. And in this singularly unique and completely universal way, have to find a way to come to places of peace so that we can breathe again and move forward. It's okay to feel. It's okay to sit and just fall apart sometimes. Sometimes we have to. Sometimes we just need to get that emotion out. And sometimes we can do that in creative ways. Sometimes we can express it in other ways. But however we do it, we at some point are going to have to experience the emotions that go along with this. It's part of, in my opinion, it is part of our learning process. It's part of how we grow. It's part of how we develop. It's not easy, ever. Loss never is. But we are stronger and more resilient than we know. And surviving through what seems like the most unsurvivable experiences teaches us about our own tenacity. And there is a gift in that. Anyway, sometimes we just need to hear that we have permission to feel. And sometimes we need to know that the moments that we take to cry in a corner or listen to some super sad songs on our CD player, I know I'm old school, and just lose it and cry, or watch a movie that we know is going to really bring out some cathartic process for us. That doesn't mean that we're weak, and that doesn't mean that we have lost our marbles, and that doesn't mean that we will not pick ourselves right back up and get right back to whatever it is that we need to do. You have proven to yourself time and time and time again throughout the course of this life that you are capable of doing exactly that, and you will again. It's a lot. I hope that you're safe. I hope that you are keeping your loved ones safe. It's okay to feel. Bear hugs, beloved. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon.